All right, the day has finally come where I'm going to stream myself playing Brainfuck Challenge. Although this is slightly misleading because what I really had in mind here was Brainfuck's idea for creating an interesting transient slicer sort of machine inside of FL Studio. I'm going to try to follow directions, and it's through my failure at following directions that this might actually become fun. This is probably not what he envisioned, but I'm going to try to follow his instructions to create a granular sampler that hopefully does some interesting re-triggering. Yeah, I have no idea. So let's get started. So let's go ahead and grab the granulizer for starters. Fruity granulizer. Now in the past, you actually couldn't do this. This is a very new feature here. The code base was not compatible between Patcher and the granulizer. So now that you can actually do this, we have the option to go ahead and create controls and stuff. So you can right click on something like hold, and then suddenly I have that here. Another way to do that, of course, is to right click on it and say inputs, parameters, and then you can pick stuff. Now I think you can also activate everything all at once, but it becomes messy if you do that. You could probably... No, there's no option for that. I guess that's probably a good thing. So you basically just have to activate the stuff that you think that you'll want. So let's go back to that post here. So the granulizer has a transient slice built into it, which I haven't really played with. So we're going to have to see that too. So it automatically chops up a sample. And we basically want to automate the time stretch in the granulizer while doing that. So that should be pretty easy in general, I would think. Maybe the grain spacing and the wave spacing. All of these kind of go together to create that. So let's activate each of these here. And then here's my idea is we need like a scaler if we're going to create a macro or whatever. It's probably a good thing for us to pull out a few of these formula controllers. That's not how you do it in FL Studio, is it? You have to do this. So the reason why I'm doing this is because if we do feel like creating a macro, we're going to want to have these on tap. What I like to do here is probably, I guess A is probably going to be our standard input here. Let's go ahead and say A times B. How about that? B will be the amplifier and C will be the offset. Now I think I could save that as a preset, perhaps. I already have one, but I'm going to save that as a preset called scalar. So if I open that back up, I should have that multiple times. The only problem with Patcher here, I'll try to keep my complaints to a minimum. You have to activate this stuff for it to work. So A is going to be our input. We only need to activate A because B and C are kind of taken care of internally. We're going to take care of these internally. Like I was saying, I don't feel like having knobs like out the wazoo or anything. So we'll keep a few of these on tap in case we end up doing a macro that goes across, which we probably will just want one knob for this. First, let me investigate though. Let me investigate the auto chop thing and see how we can get that firing. So I'm going to take something that I've made here to avoid copyright and all that stuff. This is actually all created from just one ultrasound sample. All right, let's see what happens when now where is that option here? I don't think I've used that option before. Looking for transient slice here. Is it that detect right there? Is that what it's doing? It looks like it's creating regions, but it's hard for me to tell if that's what he's talking about. You know what, let me load something that's got a little bit more of like a tempo to it, because I think that the transient detector there will slice it that way. It's just that like there's either too many or not enough transients maybe. Let's just go with that for starters and see. So it looks like it is doing that mechanism. I'm not sure why. Oh, is it this? Is it these two combined? There we go. Okay, so that's what he's talking about there. I guess if you do transient detect and then you do the key to transient, you have all these different transients on tap. See, you learn new things all the time. I didn't know about this. Although now it's not fucking working. What's going on there? It was totally just working. Okay, that's weird. Okay, that seems to be working. So I'm going to pipe in my Livecoding interface into that because I'm addicted to it now. Actually, I'm going to do my X-step sequencer here, so it just gives us like random values and stuff like that. Okay, so it looks like it's more or less doing what I wanted it to do, but I'm going to take our BPM down a little bit. Let's do something a little bit cooler than that. So I guess the biggest problem with using something like this is that the transients are all very close together, so we're not really getting like the granulizer effect. I need something with far less transients. Maybe what I should do is just like make my own regions if it allows. See, I'm not sure how to create a region. It's detecting an awful lot of regions, so I guess that's kind of the issue here. So what happens if I like overlay these a little bit? Let's do another VFX script. Does it handle polyphony well? It's the real challenge. Now I use the live coding interface. So that is actually a pretty cool effect. It seems like these do kind of work in tandem here, and it does accept polyphony. So this isn't a bad idea. Go ahead and slap a limiter on there so I can jack it up. And technically, I guess any limiter with an input and an output are pretty much just maximizers. So that's basically what I'm going to be doing here, is maximizing it. Sounds like the intro to like a 1990s hip hop song. See what else we can do with it with another live coding interface. I know I'm using the hell out of these, but the cool thing about it is it's a little bit more flexible than some of the other ones. It's got that time-based thing, so we can actually change the time base a little bit and get a totally different thing out of it. Let's say we're going to divide by 4, make the note length a little bit longer. See how that goes. So it seems like he was correct. This is doable, and it would actually make things more interesting to do that. So you definitely don't need to script in order to do that. I know I'm using these script things to generate notes and all that, but you could do all that inside the piano roll if you wanted to. I'm just lazy. Yeah, the next course of action would be to just get like an LFO or something going. Forget what they call that controller. I think it's the... Now you could do it with the formula controller, but they have one that generates an LFO. I forget, so I'm just gonna go ahead and generate an LFO here. Go ahead and activate the output, and we're going to attach that to... Let's do the grain spacing for starters, and then we can scale it with our scaler. So all you really have to do is sign song time for this. If you do sign song time, it keeps on counting, and then basically you want to reduce the amplitude a little bit and then skew it. So times a half, and you'll get it ramping up to halfway, and then you basically just need to offset it by half a point. So plus 0.5 will probably get us there. There's quicker ways to do it, but this is how I can do it in my head without looking anything up. So it's not going all the way down because we don't have it in song mode. I basically just have to give it enough room to play everything out. Perfect sine wave every time. So what I can do is I can also pipe that, because, you know, we can't scale something like that without doing extra math. So that's why we have this little scale thing here. Now we can see what it's doing. So we can kind of repeat that process, or we can create a knob or whatever we want to do. We are going to need more of those formula controllers though in order to make this work. Go ahead and set them all to our scaler. Give them each an output. Give them each an input. I can't wait until they speed up quality of life things like this, because it's going to be a whole lot easier. We're going to do attack time, we're going to do grain hold time, and then we're also going to do wave spacing. So if we keep all of this straight here, there's easier ways to do this, but I'm trying to keep it clean. We pretty much have our ways of skewing and controlling things. So we could literally just do one of these surface knobs here and pipe it into all of those. Just give ourselves any old knob, make it large and then charge. And now we have that knob. So that knob can go out to all of our different places, and we can skew it however we want. So this should mess with things quite a bit, hopefully in a good way. Go ahead and give it all the amplitude for starters. Give it free roam. So that's pretty cool. We could even give that knob an input if we want. So that can just be kind of like a rendezvous point for like this entire set of controls. And we could even pipe that LFO that we originally had through it if we're weird, because we are. And then do all of our values in whatever way we want. Now let's see how that does with a different sample entirely. How about? We can also slow the LFO down too by saying song time divided by whatever, maybe 2. That actually is a lot cooler than I thought it would be, because if we had like a kick to that or like a beat, I'm sure that would be rhythmically correct and it would sound pretty interesting. So let's try that. But though, I'm gonna send this through the reverb first so that they can both enjoy the limiter together. Please don't crash, that would suck. The micro hi-hat out. Now if we get some of the information from the DAW, we won't have to set up another VFX script. We can just kind of have it bang on the clock signals and bring in some Boolean logic so it doesn't do that when it's paused. If we put the Boolean logic on it now, it'll only happen when the track is playing. So we're going to say that clock signal only when the track is playing on the play gate right there. And that's why we choose the and Boolean. Also got to pipe it to the output, or else. And now we don't need necessarily an additional copy of voltage, but just to keep things straight, I'm going to do that anyway, just in case we do want to use like VFX script or something like that, which we might want to do here. Rather than routing that to the output, we want that all to go through the limiter and squash it like a bug. Now for the snare, I might use the VFX script again because it's simpler. Although we could use any old sequencer, this is probably faster. I'm going to pull out my favorite snare from Synthetic Future and Rware. And since this is going to come from MIDI, we're just going to take it from the MIDI trigger here, which is already going to be piped in through VFX script. Now we do have to turn on my Livecoding interface, of course. Give it a reasonable snare pattern like 0 0 1 0 0 0 1 0 0 0 1 0 0 0 1 1. Try that. All right, so I probably did it all wrong, but he will be the judge of whether or not I can follow directions. So I think this at least kind of creates like a starter base sort of a thing for further manipulation and things that you want to do, because of course you can always right click on one of these and decide that you're going to commandeer B, for example, and then suddenly B is your amplifier here and, you know, C is your offset. More than likely you'd probably want to take over C because it's your offset. So if you wanted to have that LFO kind of competing against something else, you know, maybe a constant value or whatever, you could just go ahead and create a separate knob here. And if you create a knob here, it will become part of the output. So if I create one more knob and call it something else, heavy metal, you might want to give these names like I didn't. So knob 2 here will automatically have an output. Knob 2 has a surface output, so you could basically pipe that into any of your other values. So you have full control over what you want to do. You can even see everything automating in real time. That was actually pretty inspiring, and I really like his idea. So it'll be up to him to let me know if I did it correctly. Thanks so much for watching. Tune in next time for another episode of Brainfuck Challenge, not to be confused with Brainfuck Challenge.